Welcome to a Leader's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Joel Gunn, and I am so excited to be back in the studio, and even more so with my friend Brent.
Yay.
So we're back. It's been a while since we got to be in the studio together. Last time we were together, we were at the SAMA trade show.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit quieter today. Slightly less energy in the room.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but definitely a lot less distractions in the background.
That's right. Squirrel.
Hey, just before the show, we were talking about a topic a lot of people don't like to think about much, which is doing hard things. What's been on your mind about that lately?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a title. People are like, I don't want to listen to hard things. We'll go on to another podcast. So for those of you who are actually listening and decided to listen to some podcast titled Doing Hard Things or something about that, congratulations, you're already winning. I think there's some trends that I'm seeing in, at least in the individual personal psychology space, about the value of doing hard things. There's some neuroscience research and studies that are supporting the fact that when we do things that we don't want to do, doesn't mean incredibly dangerous, but difficult, risky. I don't want to do this. There's things that happen in our brain, especially in the blood-brain barrier, areas of our brain that grow only when we do that. And so there's some movements where individuals are intentionally doing difficult things, doing hard things that you want to do actually don't have the same benefit. It's like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Jumping in a cold shower, going for a run, having a difficult conversation, doing taxes. There's these things that they're showing doing hard things are really valuable and beneficial to brain. Long-term brain and the physiology, and just into character and personal growth in general. You mentioned different domains: physical, mental, relational. The studying you've done, is it giving any indication that one's better than the other for the brain itself, or a proper balance? Or so I think I like the word integration and integrating. I think if we see willpower or even dopamine, making decisions, all of those things as a strength that we develop and as an energy that we can spend in the short term, then I think it makes sense that we can perhaps develop some of those things in some dimensions and not in others. Maybe be fine with doing difficult things in relationships, but not in the physical space. I may just go off the rails on my nutrition or on my exercise, but really good with doing difficult conversations in the workplace or at home or something like that. So I think it's as an individual, and I think we can talk about organizationally too, that we develop these muscles, kind of like doing leg day, doing arms, doing chest. I think we can develop this doing hard things in these different dimensions: spiritually, relationally, nutritionally, exercise, conversations, education, self-growth, all these things that we can just go and do, organizing.
Are you seeing some sort of frequency or rhythm that's key? Like, is it, I got to do a hard thing every week? Is it a fluid?
Well, I love fractals, so it's all of them. Yeah, I think there's a daily rhythm. Especially starting your day, doing something difficult just sets you up. Instead of starting with easy things, we've all heard. I say all. That's presumptuous. A lot of us have heard the putting rocks and sand and gravel into the container, and that being a model for time management, where if you put the little thing, sand and gravel, in your container, your time container for the day, you won't have room for very many big rocks of the important things. But if you do the big important things, maybe you don't like them, but they're important, you do those first, you'll still have room for the gravel and the sand and the fun, the little things and things like that. So I think there's a daily, definitely a daily thing. Just doing something hard doesn't even have to be important. You're just doing something hard. It sets you up for that type of behavior really throughout the day. Yeah. But there's also, I'll say too, there's also research on showing, go do
4 hours of a hard thing on a Saturday on a weekly basis, do something extended, whereas your daily might be a 2-minute cold shower. Your weekly might be a 4-hour walk going, 12 miles. Your more annual thing might be, I'm going to go spend a week or two doing something really hard. I might be off the grid. I might be fasting. I might be doing something extended for multiple days. And so I think there's space for all of those.
From an intellectual challenge, 15-week certification or something.
Yep.
You're not going to do that monthly, but you might do that every few years. Or
that's right. And nor is it a chronic hard thing either, right? I think some of us also get into the ditch of just chronically being in this anxious, stressed space where I feel like, and I think this is something that happens if we delay doing some hard things, they don't leave our brain. And so we just sit in this part of the cycle of a hard thing. Some of the theory of intentionally doing something difficult and hard is actually completing a cycle of stress. Stress is not bad. Stress is good. We grow when we get stressed, as long as we finish that stress, pushing through something difficult, and then have a period of rest and recovery. In that rest and recovery, we get stronger. And so if we have these cycles where we can actually stress, push, go beyond, whether we see it in the gym really obviously, right? We go through, if we do less than we're capable of every time we go in the gym, we probably won't experience growth. It's those times when we push, whether it be in time or in weight or reps, whatever it is. It's those times where we can push beyond what we could do before, those doing hard things and don't feel like doing it, don't want to do it. And then you rest afterwards, you get growth. So I think it actually helps us get out of that chronic stress, or the chronic where I'm just always consistently in this, there's a hard thing just waiting there for me, and I'm not doing that hard thing, or I'm doing a little bit of the hard thing, and that just, we never do complete that cycle of rest after that. That's not healthy.
You mentioned time management a moment ago, which was super popular in the late 80s, early 90s. There were several time management systems out there. The one I subscribed to at the time, took some training around, was Covey Institute put it out. And they all did this. Was you have your A, B, and C's, your priority 1, 2, 3s, whatever the methodology was in that system. But you used a different system. So I'm curious to know, Covey said, tackle your A's first, right? They're highly important, might be difficult and important, right? But for whatever reason, you've rated them as an A for tomorrow's activities. So do those first in the day. Was that similar experience in the way you understood?
That's been the prevailing wisdom. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if that carries into this conversation to some degree, because you and I could sit here and prescribe what hard things might be from our perspective, but somebody viewing or listening to the podcast may have be in a different season. For them, a hard thing is they've been stuck in bed for the last 3 months due to an illness.
Right.
Walking a mile tomorrow would be a very hard thing. Right. So I'm wondering if there's, for people to apply what we're talking about, if there's a context where what's those things, priority items you need to do tomorrow, just move that to the front of your day. And that's likely, not always, but likely a hard thing or harder thing than the other things you got to do tomorrow.
Sure.
Does that work? Am I getting it?
It certainly can. I think we can do that in a wrong way. And I think one of the traps that we can do when we do that is our A1 priorities are too big. And so if they're too big to really accomplish in the morning, if it's for instance a week and a half long A1 task that's sitting there on your to-do list for the day, that's a hard one to bite off. It's like, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And so I think to adapt to doing the right size hard thing for today, knowing I don't have, honestly, nobody really has 12 hours in a day of being able to do hard things. We have something a little more limited than that. And so how do we prioritize doing our best time, our most focused time, and dividing up that big project that's an A1 project into some A1 task, and if at all possible, only doing a small A1 task that's part of the overall project in a single day that I can bite off in the day. So that's definitely an important part to accomplishing your day. Some of the research, though, is showing that no matter whether it's an important thing or not, just doing something hard, is going to expand our brain, our willpower, our psyche to be able to do hard things.
Just taking the trash to the curb, Kim.
Taking the trash to the curb, organizing the garage, right? This was something that I've tried recently. Was the garage was just sitting there. It was important. And so ended up every morning, workday morning, like that Monday is not a garage cleaning day, but take one shelf in the garage and go organize the one shelf. That is, I can do that in a Monday morning kind of a thing. It's a 10 to 15 minute type of a difficult, hard thing. And it's amazing the accomplishment you feel, the position, the posture that it puts you in then for the rest of the day. On that, yes, it wasn't an A1 project that I needed to accomplish at work, but it does set you up for that day, and building habits of, I'm just consistently taking care of something difficult, hard. I think getting in those habits and building those habits.
I remember an admiral, I'm not recalling his name, but he did the college speech and it went viral about the first thing you do is make your bed if you want to be successful in life.
Make your bed. Yeah.
And it was about building that discipline of accomplishing something early in your day.
Right.
That not everybody does.
Right.
And so I think that's part of the psychology of what you're talking about, except you're introducing this idea of not avoid those hard things, right?
Right.
For somebody making a bed that's never done it, might be a hard thing for a year, but at some point it's not a hard thing anymore.
Correct. Yeah. After it's not a hard thing, the way the theory goes, you need to find another hard thing that you don't want to do. If you grow to really enjoy making your bed, then it's no longer providing that kind of benefit as far as growth and brain growth and those things. So finding a new hard thing to do that you don't want to do.
Is variety a key in this being considered growth?
I think so. And I think it probably has to do with a couple things. If you learn to like something that used to be, you didn't like it. And sometimes that's because of mastery. I don't like writing maybe because I'm just not good at it. And then I become good at it. And now it becomes a joy. I start looking forward to it. Well, you've accomplished something through mastery. But it's just no longer providing that one benefit of challenge. Doing something I don't want to do, doing something difficult. And so keep writing, but now switch over if you need to find something new that's hard to do. Plus, I think the variety of finding hard things in different dimensions of, I did a hard thing in nutrition the other day. I did a hard thing maybe in organizing. Now I need to do something hard in relationships and having maybe a hard conversation, or just practicing, maybe it's not a hard conversation. Maybe it's just a conversation, right? Of, maybe it's even at the end of the day, doing a hard thing at the end of the day. I feel like I'm tired. The thing I want to do is to sit in front of the TV or to scroll or whatever. I think that's what I need to do because I'm tired. The reality is I really can sit down. Maybe it's not going to be the best conversation ever, but the best hard thing to do is actually sit down and listen. Like, I'm tired, but I really want to hear. I'm going to do this on purpose, and even watching that growth. So it doesn't always have to be at the beginning. It can be in the times where we're tired. Right, that's kind of like the stamina side of doing something hard, persevering. So it's not just can I strengthen, go to something heavier. Can I do something a little bit longer, which could be man, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to have a conversation, talk about chit chat, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Or it's late night. I could veg in front of the TV, or I could read an old-fashioned book, paper, hardcover.
Read an old-fashioned book.
Right, because a lot of people have lost that desire to even pick up a book, because I can watch a podcast, I can check out YouTube, I can listen to an Audible, I can...
Or just be bored.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hard things that there's something that happens in boredom, and we have so much access to entertainment, to information, to our phones, to light even, right? It used to be when we didn't have electricity, you really didn't have, you had no choice. It was dark. I just have to sit here and be bored and either talk to somebody or just sit in the stillness. And there's a lot of research that talks about how much creativity, how much dreaming, vision, hope happens in those quiet times, how much processing happens. And so that could be somebody's hard thing too. Not just doing something, but
doing nothing.
Not doing nothing, right? Instead of feeling like I have to be occupied doing that's probably a challenge for a lot of people, but it's a challenge for me especially.
Juliet Funt at Global Leadership Summit a few years ago talked about creating that white space.
Yeah.
And the space where you do nothing but just sit. And she quoted some famous people. The one I remember at the moment was Bill Gates would sit and just look out the window for 15 minutes every day. Now for a man of his wealth, that wasn't a very, very expensive practice.
Yeah.
Right. But he felt like that 15 minutes of just staring out the window was extremely beneficial for him.
Right.
And so you're right. A lot of people in today's society struggle with doing a productive nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not pick up your phone and scroll or answer a text, or, it's difficult to be still.
It is. And, I think it's, I heard something recently as well. Do we spend our dopamine or do we invest it? And we kind of have a dopamine supply or energy, and I like the idea of spending versus investing anyways. But I hadn't heard it applied to things like dopamine, which is what we're talking about often in doing hard things, making decisions, or just sitting still, scrolling. And, like when we go and scroll, we're not actually getting a dopamine hit. Like we don't get super excited. There's just enough of a thing in there, and it actually it lowers our dopamine threshold in the way addictions do. But instead, I choose to go use that dopamine in my system to go do something hard, right? And go higher, go further, instead of just to, sit there and be entertained and feel some pleasure or feel some comfort.
So when you say do hard things, is another way of saying that is do uncomfortable things? Is it the same? Is uncomfortable and hard the same thing?
It certainly can be. I think for me it is, because I like comfort, and it feels like I joke. I became an engineer because I was lazy, and so there's some goodness in like that laziness. Always trying to find an easier way to do something, a faster way. Something that takes less energy. That's a very healthy goal. It helps efficiency. It helps us, be more fruitful, be more productive. But it could also be, I want to enjoy comfort so much. If it's available and an option, I'm going to go and take that lower energy space. So, comfort can be kind of like the trough of it, or the valley. And so if we kind of do nothing, we're going to tend towards that. That could be as simple as, instead of me going and doing something important or difficult, I'm going to just go through my inbox, because it's kind of an easy thing to do. My inbox just kind of sits there, and I can just kind of spend some time. I feel like maybe I'm doing something important in there. But it's a place of comfort. It's kind of a place of safety. And so the hard things get left undone. The difficult things get left undone. Yeah.
Do you think some hard things take planning, like a difficult conversation? Probably, at least for me, at most difficult conversations, I need to sleep on it, right? Because if I go in the moment, I'm probably not going to handle it as well as if I process it for some hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the thing that keeps us from doing the ultimate hard thing is the planning to be ready for it. Or maybe it's not planning. Maybe it's I actually need to work on myself in that. One of the things I've been thinking about personally is how much does being judgmental inside of me keep me from having good conversations in the workplace or even at home. And so the hard thing for me is not necessarily going and have a toxic conversation that does more damage than good. The hard thing is actually perhaps planning or preparation or reminding myself, so the warm up of, okay, remember, here's what you do in a conversation. You listen, you don't judge, you look for behaviors and you talk about those. You don't talk about and presume motivations and things like that. So the hard thing is
the preparation,
or at least the rewiring. I need to be intentional about rewiring my brain, doing the work myself. It's kind of like if playing a round of golf, you're trying to get a good score. The hard thing isn't necessarily going to play another round of golf. The hard thing is going and working on your swing, fixing your slice. It's putting in the time at the practice range, not just trying to get back out on the course again.
Yeah, I think a hard thing a lot of people I talk to is practicing self-awareness.
Yep.
And a hard thing in that is, you touched on it a moment ago, is analyzing my own motives or my own assumptions or my own judgments or that. And frankly, a lot of us don't like to do that. That self-reflection is painful, and it's like, oh, maybe I did contribute to this.
Yeah. It may be the reason why a lot of us like to go into leadership or entrepreneurship is because we'd rather deal with other people than deal with ourselves. Because I think a lot of times being able to work in teams is not just how broken other people are. It's if I focus more on myself, it's amazing how fixed other people become magically. The more I work on myself, the better other people tend to become. And so if I don't have the courage or the intentionality, the awareness to go and work on myself, I'm going to tend to, I'm leaving this team or company and go and start my own thing. That seems to be what I'm supposed to do. And, then we have a lot of entrepreneurs that perhaps struggle with starting their own things because they still haven't dealt with the things that were inside. The hard thing for them was actually to look inside. What are the broken things in me that I could do better at, and actually help me work better inside the team, inside the church, inside my company, and be the right person there and be the best person there, or even in marriage. Yeah. Right.
Christine and I were just talking about that this morning. It was easy earlier in marriage to go, it's her. Yeah. No, it's him. No, it's her. No, it's him.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we actually may talk about that in an upcoming podcast, is that where we got to that point where we started to say, hey, let's focus on, let me fix me.
Yeah.
And then see what happens. And magically, she got a lot better.
Yes. I've this exact same experience. So I love that magic. I think it happens in the workplace. I think it happens everywhere. So ultimately, yeah, I mean, that's a great encouragement for everybody listening. Probably the most important hard things we can do is focusing on ourselves and strengthening ourselves. Everybody wins. That's another GLS saying. Everybody wins when the leader gets better, when the leader gets stronger. So those are, I think, really valuable insights and takeaways. And if we can get teams of people who are increasing their own self-awareness, now we have healthy teams. Instead of like, oh, this team has conflict, I think the thing I'm supposed to do is go start my own thing or go and leave. And those kinds of folks are going to be miserable. It's a great thing to look for in an interview. I was just thinking about that. Like, how do you ask for these things in an interview when you're asking them hard things that they went through? Are the responses about, I had a bad boss, or I had a bad teammate, I had all these other things that are out there, compared with, oh yeah, that was really difficult. It really helped me grow in communication or something. You know, when they start looking inward about how they grew in a situation, not what made this hard was all the other people.
That's good. As we wrap up, any books or resources you'd recommend to folks? I've got one in mind, but I'm curious if you...
I think one that comes to mind is Atomic Habits.
Okay.
It's James Clear. He talks a lot about, especially you're trying to make new habits, and you do that by taking a bite-sized hard thing. If you're trying to go to the gym on a daily basis, start just by going to the parking lot, showing up
with your tennis shoes,
maybe even without them. Like you're starting, you're getting in the habit of doing this hard thing, but you don't have to make it impossible. You can do something, make your hard thing bite-sized, 5 minute. If you're trying to write a book, just write for 5 minutes in the morning. Maybe you're not going to get much written, but you just get in the habit of, this is the time to do a hard thing. And, oh, that wasn't so bad. I didn't die. Nothing bad happened. I can do this. Right.
The book that came to mind, especially at the end there, where we're talking about self-reflection, was Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's, I would say that's still probably in my top 3 books for leaders.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for the time. I've enjoyed this episode, and let's do another one.
Let's do it. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.